welcome to the Knitting Jungle podcast. My name is Sara and I live in the Boston area, and this is a podcast about everything that I've been knitting on. Sometimes I might throw in some crochet or some sewing, but mostly I love to knit, so that's what I will be sharing. I like to knit with woolly rustic wools and non-superwash wools from around the world, so that's mostly what you'll be seeing on my channel. So we had a bit of a heat wave here last week. It was about 100 degrees for 3 days, and my oldest girl is in kindergarten and her school had half days due to the heat, which I've never seen before. So yeah, it's definitely been hot here, but I'm still been knitting on my wools and making sweaters and slippers. So I've got a lot to show you here today, some sewing and a few finished objects and a lot of whips. So stay tuned, grab your favorite piece that you're working on, your favorite cup of tea or coffee, and let's get started. First, I'll start off with what I'm wearing. This is the Lora dress by True Bias Patterns. I made this last year in a beautiful taupe or beige linen from the fabric store. That's where I get all my linen. It's pretty cheap when you get it there. Let me stand up a second so you can see. So this is probably one of my favorite summer dress patterns that I've ever made. It just fits me really well. It has some gathers here under the bust for some nice shaping, and it buttons all the way down the bottom. And it has a nice scoop back here, the little waistband here. The waist is really flattering, I think. And I made mine like in between a midi and a maxi length. I like when my dresses hit just above the ankle, and I think it makes your legs look really long to have your ankles showing. At least that type of proportion works for my body. I got these buttons off of Etsy. I think they're maybe not a vintage button, but you know, not newly made, and I think it pairs really well with this beige linen fabric. This is probably one of the more expensive patterns I've bought. Normally I spend like maybe $5 on a sewing pattern. This one was maybe around $14, maybe even a little bit more. I can't remember. This was last year. But I do think you get what you pay for. This pattern is really well written. The instructions are super clear. The whole thing just comes together like a perfect puzzle piece, and it's very satisfying to see it all tied together. The very last thing you do is you put a facing on the two halves of the button band. It's like you can fully unbutton the dress, and actually this would make a really good beach dress because you can just take it on and off easily. You can unbutton it as much as you like at the top or the bottom. But anyways, about the facings, when those come together, it was like so satisfying. And the inside of the dress looks just as beautiful as the outside. All the seams are hidden, so I can't remember if there were any serged edges, but if there were, they're completely gone and hidden, so the inside of the dress looks like it could be the outside of the dress. So I love this pattern so much, I actually made a second one. This one's kind of unbuttoned, but I made this in a very lightweight cotton fabric. This is like an Indian block print fabric. This is the back of the dress. So yeah, I wear these a lot. I wore these a lot last summer, and I'm already wearing them this year. So yeah, that's it for I did make one other dress, but since it's sewing instead of knitting, I'm going to add that at the end of the podcast. So if you're interested, stick to the end to see the latest dress I sewed. I finished it yesterday, or Sunday actually. So let's get into the knitting, what you're probably here for. So I finished this. You might have seen me working on this in my last episode about 2 weeks ago. Ooh! So this is the Bifurca Vest by Tetti's Knit Garden. I believe she lives in the Netherlands, but she's Ukrainian, and she is a botanist. And so she has really beautiful color work where all the themes are plant inspired. So I really love how this turned out. I'll show a cutaway video of me wearing this and how I plan on styling it. So I thought it would be perfect for summer. If you have to wear wool in summer, like on a cool night, I think this would be perfect. I made this in, a lot of my wardrobe is white, so I thought I will make this in white to go with my existing summer wardrobe. And the brown accent is really beautiful. It's like a yellowish ochre brown. And she originally had this made in a DK weight yarn with a little bit thicker needles, and I ended up making this in Buches Petite Lambswool just because I wanted to try that yarn. And here the summers get super hot, so I thought a thinner, this is maybe a fingering weight yarn possibly, and I thought a lighter weight yarn would work better for my lifestyle, so I did that. And since it was such a thinner yarn than what she suggested for her pattern, I knit the largest size, which it comes in 9 sizes, which is great. If I was using this recommended yarn, I think I was supposed to make a size 3. So based on my swatch, I went up to a size 9 to account for the thinness of yarn, if that makes any sense. I talked in my previous episode about how I calculated the size that I should make based on the totally different yarn I wanted to use. And the fabric is really soft. It's definitely a rustic, non-superwash wool, but it's not itchy like an Icelandic wool, for example. Definitely feels like other lambswool things I've used in the past. And I've washed this or soaked it with Eucalan wool soap and blocked it and dried it, and it doesn't feel any softer than when I first knit it up, but it was definitely good to block it because I did make a lot of alterations in the shoulder straps, which I'll talk about in a sec. So that's all about the yarn. I think I knit this on surprising how fast you forget. I knit this on a 2.5mm needle, I think. If I'm wrong, I will correct myself. So yes, this is knit in the round for all the color work, so you don't have to purl and color work, which is nice. I mentioned in my last episode that I cast on 50 extra stitches by accident. So I spent about 4 hours doing the twisted rib right here at the neckline, and I wasn't about to redo that. So what I did was I cut my work and kind of sewed it back together, and that seemed to have worked. Yeah. And then where I made it so that the cut and sewed portion would be in the back, so you wouldn't see it very much. Here is where I did that little surgery. It seems like I do surgery in every single thing I knit, so that is becoming a theme. This is the inside. Once I cut it, I felted this down so it wasn't gonna go anywhere. I think it worked pretty well. I don't think you can tell, I mean, you can tell, but it's not that bad, and I would much rather have not a huge mistake, but a medium mistake than waste my time redoing it. So a lot of the time I will just keep my little mistakes in the knitting because that just gives it character and it shows, that it's actually handmade. And okay, so after that I went to the color work section, and this was so fun to knit. It was very addicting. Every single row is different. You have to pay very close attention because it's a very, very big, long chart and only some sections you repeat. So you do have to pay attention. You probably don't want to knit this in a room full of all your friends where you're chit-chatting. But I don't think I made that many mistakes. So yeah, it went really well for the size 9. Each size has its own chart, so I did the size 9, and no mistakes in that chart, I can verify. And one thing I really think is cute about this pattern are these little pearl bumps. I actually accidentally put some of these in the wrong place, but I just really like that detail. Just so cute and feminine and subtle. I like, cute, subtle details like that. So if you were to get up close and inspect it, you'd be like, ooh, that's very cool. Okay, so after that, so I'll insert a picture of how this vest is supposed to look. The original looks great on her, on Teddy. It extends maybe to here, the shoulder I mean, so it's quite a wide shoulder, and that is what the design is, and it definitely looks great on her. For me, I've got pretty broad shoulders and a big overhanging flap of fabric in the shoulder area. I already know is not too flattering for me. So I decided to do some more Frankensteining, and what I did was I looked at her picture and I saw where in the pattern I would like my shoulder to end, and that was right at the end of the colorwork actually. So you're supposed to keep knitting in the round even after the colorwork ends, and that's how you get that extended shoulder line there. But I stopped it here, and I put all of these stitches on hold from here all the way to the same like armpit area in the back. So I didn't want to knit those anymore and make those longer. So I did that on both sides. I just held all of these stitches on some needles, and then I just worked the front and the back separately as it was in the pattern. And I don't mind purling at all. There's no more color work after that, so there's no problem at all. I just worked the front and the back to the desired length, and then you pick up stitches for the sides and then do a Kitchener's stitch in the middle to seam them together. And that's basically how this thing is constructed. And I was pretty scared this whole, all the changes I made with the shoulder strap area was, I had no idea if that was gonna work or not, but I think it is. I think it's flattering, and I think it looks good enough that I will wear this. So that is a success in my book. And then once you finish the sides and everything, then you do about 1,000,000 hours of twisted rib here at the bottom. And I think that looks so, so good. I think in her version she makes it even longer, but for me, a cropped length is pretty flattering, and I wear a lot of high-waisted pants and skirts and dresses that have a seam at the high waist. So once I had it to this length, I tried it on with some outfits and made sure it was perfect before I bound off. And then, yeah, and then it was done. I really like this yarn. It's very thin. This twisted rib took forever, but it was my first time doing twisted rib, and now I'm hooked on that. I think it just looks really good. I think 1x1 ribbing in certain yarns looks bad or sloppy kind of, but this twisted rib looks very, very neat, to me at least. And that's all that matters, because I'm the one who's gonna be wearing it. So yeah, I think that's all I can say about this. I'm very pleased. Oh, the whole reason I made this vest was because the Wooly Thistle, which is my favorite online yarn shop, although they're opening a storefront very, very soon, kind of local to me in New Hampshire, maybe a couple hours drive away. They have a really good podcast on YouTube as well. Anyways, they were doing a vest knit along. It started May 31st and it's going until maybe mid-July. So I thought, oh, that's a good excuse to do a vest. And I really didn't want to do sleeves, so that was very appealing. And yeah, I think this will not be my last vest for sure. It's kind of just like a tank top. So yeah, I didn't think I was a vest person, but you know, a sleeveless tank I can get behind. So for the Bifurca vest, I used maybe 2.5 balls of the Petite Lambswool, and with the remaining I cast on and finished my new best friend. Here she is. This is Aggie the Sheep from the book Moosh and Friends, I think it's called. And she is so cute. She also comes with a dress, which I've just cast on. It's going to be a pink dress with white checks. And this, okay, so this is all I have left now of that third ball, so I'm very pleased with my use of yarn there. So yeah, I used the Petite Lambswool held together with some Knitting for Olive Silk Mohair. I just had this in stash and it maybe used half a ball of that. This actually took a surprisingly long time to knit. I think because it's such a thin yarn and it's so fiddly. Like, knitting toys is so fiddly to me. For years and years I probably made like 30 or 40 toys in the past, but they were all crochet. And I much prefer crocheting toys because double pointed needles are just fiddly. There's no way around it. But this pattern was so cute that I had to try it, and I even got the book because all the little, there's like maybe a dozen animals, or maybe, I don't know, but there's several animals. They're all cute. They all have their own little outfits, and I thought that would just be, I like to have books in my collection just to look at and occasionally knit from. So you start at the head, which is, I love making toys where you start at the head so you can see how cute it's gonna be before, and that really motivates you to finish. And I put little safety eyes in here. These are maybe 2 or 3 millimeter safety eyes. You can really see how fuzzy she got with that mohair. Then you embroider a little nose, you pick up stitches for the ears. And then you just kind of knit top down. You do the arms, the tummy, and the legs. And a lot of the time you are holding stitches, you have a lot of stitches and on hold. So at one point I had like maybe 6 or 7 needles going on this thing. And this was knit on 2 millimeter needles. And I only have 5 2 millimeter needles, so at some point I was using 2.25 millimeter needles, and that just worked. That was fine. Oh, and then her little hooves are, it's the silk mohair held together with the darker shade of the Petite Lambswool from earlier. So yeah, I used a little bit more of that. I have a lot of that contrasting color left. I've got at least half a ball left of this color, so that's nice. Maybe I'll make a nice little brown lamb, a brown sheep next, or maybe I should try one of the other animals from that book. So you remember how I was saying I always have a disaster when I first start, and I always have to like cut my work and do major surgery? Well, for poor little Aggie the sheep, there was no exception there for her. Sorry, it's a little steamy, a little warm in here. So I knit all the way down to the butt, and I had made one leg, and then I realized I had put her butt in her front. Poor little girl. And I realized that because the foot was also backwards, so she was walking around like this with her head on the wrong way. So when I discovered that, well, first I had a pretty good laugh, and then I immediately was panicking because I thought I was going to have to cut the head off and sew it on backwards. Got the mohair in my mouth, sorry. Then I realized I will just cut her at the abdomen and do a little tummy tuck situation there. So what I did was like the afterthought heel method, where I picked up a row of stitches, and then I picked up another row of stitches 2 rows below the first row, and then I cut the in-between row and pulled out that row. So then at the end of that I had she was in half, and each all the live stitches were on needles, and then I could flip her body around the right way, and I Kitchener's stitched her body back together, and it is pretty seamless. I mean, if you know where it is, you can find it, but she's gonna have her dress on and nobody will see her little scar. So that is the surgical tale of poor little Aggie, but she made a full recovery. So yeah, I recommend, you know what, this pattern was a little bit difficult. Like I said, I've made many toys before. The head was very easy to follow, but when it got to the body, it was really hard to tell like where the round began, because sometimes the yarn would be somewhere else and then it wanted you to start the round, but it didn't really say if you should knit to where the round began and then start the round, or if you should just like drag the yarn over. So I think that's what happened there, and it got flipped, and her butt got flipped around to her front. But all is solved, and yeah, I can't wait to finish off her dress so she looks even more cute than she does now. I also forgot to mention that I put some armature wire in her. The best way to do this is while you're knitting, but when I got to the end, I kind of remembered that I had wanted to do this and it was too late. It's a lot harder to stick the armature wire in there once she is fully formed, but I just did my best anyways. I put like a very thin one so you can move her, but she's not so stiff that she's not cuddly anymore. So if you want to put her on a little ledge or something, she can do that. I think her neck should move a little bit. A little bit. Okay. And that's all about Aggie now. Okay, so 2 episodes ago, I showed you a kit I got from the Wooly Thistle, from Marie Wallin's new book about her. It's all beautiful colorwork knits from her latest yarn collection called Erin. And this yarn is pretty much exactly the same as her other yarn. It's just double the thickness. So that really appealed to me because all the sweaters in her book are gonna knit up super fast and they're all beautiful. But the one I chose to do is on the front cover of the book. I don't normally wear a lot of blue, but something about this sky blue really just spoke to me, and I thought it was like the most beautiful sweater I'd ever seen. Well, no. I really like the colorwork sweaters by Cecil Hoyvik as well, but Marie Wallin is a very well-known knitwear designer, and I never made a pattern from her before, so I thought I would get the kit and give it a try. So, like I said, 2 episodes ago, I showed the kit and all the colors of yarn. It comes with like 12 different colors. Maybe it's probably every single color in the line. So that's pretty fun because sometimes you only knit with 1 or 2 colors at a time. And with a pattern like this, you don't have to think or decide which colors you're gonna get because you just get all of them to try, which is really exciting. So I did cast this on. Oh, here's the wrong side. I didn't get very far, but I did finish the bottom ribbing. This is going to be knit from the bottom up. There might be a steek for the armhole. I'm not sure, but I like a raglan armhole anyways, and I often alter my patterns to have a raglan style arm, so when the time comes, we'll see if I go by what the pattern says or if I do my normal raglan that I like to do. So the bottom is ribbed in the silver birch color, and ooh, talk about needle size. These are 4.5. So yeah, this is a very thick yarn. The rib, this is a 1x1 ribbing. I resisted the urge to do my favorite twisted rib because with the vest I had altered that pattern so much I felt kind of bad. So I just decided to try to stick to the pattern this time, at least start off that way. So yeah, the rib is knit in a 4mm needle, and then when you get to the color work, you switch to a 4.5. And so far I've used 3 colors. There's this bottom one that's like a very dark purpley color. I think it's called mulberry. The blue is called Eau de Nil, and this one, a reddish, kind of a brownish red, I think that one is chestnut. I've taken, oh wait, I can tell you right now, sorry. The reddish one is, oh yeah, it is chestnut. So the latest 2 colors I'm using are here. So this combo is so beautiful. The whole reason I got this pattern was for this Eau de Nil color, and it is beautiful. This is a non-superwash wool, Aran weight. It's British Breeds. I think the yarn is called British Breeds. And it is a, I'm just reading the label, it's a fine blend of wool spun in Devon from BFL, Blueface Leicester, Exmoor, Romney, and Zwartblaze sheep breeds. It's very soft. It feels rustic, but also soft at the same time. If I compare it to my favorite Norwegian yarns, like Rauma Fino and Hillesvåg Ask, it's softer than those yarns. Feels kind of like the lamb's wool, and it's not as soft as alpaca, but it's a nice, thick, squishy ball. And yeah, it's really fun to work with such thick yarn, especially after the fingering weight yarn I used for my vest. And yeah, it's going really well so far. I didn't make any giant errors yet. There's been no surgeries here, and I hope it stays that way. One thing I'll say is the chart is a little bit tricky. I mean, considering there's 12 colors, I kind of would have preferred the chart to be color-coded. Instead, it's black and white with symbols, so there's 12 different symbols. I'm just looking at it here, but I don't think I can show it. So what I did, because I know I will probably make a mistake, is I went in with some colored pencils and just color-coded it myself so I would get less confused. So if you have a crazy color work chart like that, maybe that's something you want to try. I think it's helping me at least. So yes, hopefully I will be making some good progress on that sweater. Oh, about how I plan to style it, I have a gray knit maxi dress, and the gray is very similar to the gray in the ribbing. And so that's how I plan to style it. I think that's going to be such a cozy but like beautiful, elegant fall and winter outfit. Okay, so this is kind of a half finished object because it's slippers, and I've made one slipper. This is, oh, I just love how this turned out. This is my first slipper I've ever made. This is by Scandi Work, and the slipper is called, I'll put it on the screen because I forget, but she's got a website with very beautiful Norwegian or Scandinavian inspired patterns. But I picked this one for my first slipper because I just love, this is the bottom. I just love the top and bottom designs. And even the heel has its own little pattern. I just think that is so cute. And then here at the opening, there's a Latvian braid with a twisted pearl situation going on. That's my first time doing something like that. I think I did it correctly. It looks good, at least to me, which is all that matters. And I knit this with my Chia Goose in the Magic Loop technique. I tried double pointed needles, but that was too annoying. So, okay, 3.5 millimeter needle. So this is a nice chunky guy. This only took me 2 days, I think. Oh, and on the side, I really like this design here on the side. And then tapers towards the toe. I just think that looks so cool. I know it's 90 degrees today, and I'm not going to be wearing these for a while, but I do need socks when it gets cold, and you want them before it gets cold, so that's why. So these are the yarns I'm making that in. This is a big cone from Harrisville Designs. It's a very long-standing yarn spinnery place here local to me in New Hampshire. I think it's been spinning since the late 1700s, maybe like 1794 or something like that. This is their number 44 white color, and this is Highland. They also have a thinner weight yarn called Shetland, and I have a color card with all the colors, which is beautiful to look at, but the same colors come in both their Highland and Shetland yarn thicknesses. This is a 8-ounce, 228 gram cone, which is approximately 450 yards, it says. And it's 100% virgin wool spun in the US. So I didn't really make a dent with these slippers. I should weigh it and see how much this used. And then for the contrast color is this kind of cool brown shade. And this is, I just keep this inside because otherwise I can't remember it all. Okay, so this is West Yorkshire Spinners Fleece. It's 100% British wool from the blue-faced Leicester sheep, and it's an Aran weight. So this is maybe slightly thinner than the Highland wool, but it worked. It worked. And this is comes in a 100-ground hank, which is 166 meters or 182 yards. And the color is dark brown 003. This is super soft. This is even softer than the Marie Wallin yarn I was just talking about. So this would be good even for something on your face. That's how soft this is. Not that the Highland is itchy. The Highland is also super smooth, but this is even softer. So yeah, I'm really happy with how this turned out. The pattern is really well written. It's one giant chart, so that's nice. You can kind of take that pattern with you wherever you go if you're on the move. So I have giant feet. I've got size 12 feet, which is maybe like a 42 or 43 in European sizes. I'm a women's 12 or a men's 9.5 or something like that. So for the different sizes, she recommends you just use the same chart and you either go up or down in needle size or up or down in your yarn thickness. So I chose the suggested for the men's size because I've got man size feet. So she suggested using the Harrisville yarn, which I already had in my stash. So she said use that with a 3.5 millimeter needle, and that's what I did. However, once I got to about here on the pattern, I tried it on. I seamed up. You start in the back here, and then you do this at the same time, and then there's a seam here at the ankle. So this part and this part, these two parts are kind of flat, like a hourglass shape, and then you fold it back on itself and seam up the sides, if that makes sense. So I seamed up the sides so I could try it on, and I looked at it, was like coming up to here on my foot, and I made a calculation and it was going to be too short if I continued the way I was going. So I calculated that I needed 8 more rows than what the chart was going to give me. So I put the chart into Stitch Fiddle, which is like a free online like stitch or like colorwork chart. Like you can make your own charts with this and it's free. The basic functions are free, which is all I need it for pretty much. And then I just I added 8 more rows like I needed, and then kind of figured out my own pattern for in between like here and here. And I just like kind of made it work on both the front and the back. I think I made a couple mistakes, but it's okay. So yeah, it was a little bit small for my foot, even when I knit the men's size. And I hope I took good enough notes that I can replicate or duplicate this slipper for my other foot. Other than that, it was a great pattern. She's got videos about how to make this Latvian braid, as well as how to there's something else. Oh, like cast on stitches. Like you knit this part flat, and then you cast on a bunch of stitches to knit in the round for the remainder from this part up. So there's a few videos about how to do those things, and those were really helpful because I'd never done some of those things before. So yeah, keeping the color work, keeping the size in mind, I will definitely make some more of her pattern. She's got some other really nice Nordic inspired designs on her website, so these will not be the last pair of slippers that I make for her. And my husband really likes these, and luckily we have the same size feet, so if he starts stealing these, I'll just make him a pair. Okay, I still have more whips. I basically had a cast-on party about a week and a half ago. After I finished the vest, I was so excited because I was saving the Marie Wallin sweater. I wasn't allowing myself to cast on until I finished that vest. So that's why I went so crazy, because I had finished a couple things and I was like, woohoo, let's do everything else I want to do all at the same time. So a few episodes ago I mentioned I'm in the middle of a sweater for my husband, and my two girls also want sweaters, obviously, for fall and winter, and I hadn't started their project. So this is a very small whip, but I cast on the first of two little girls' sweaters. I just did the ribbing just to get it started, you know, get the annoying part out of the way. This is going to be a colorwork sweater with floral colorwork. She wanted flowers. I don't have a pattern in mind yet, but I did do this. And this is a blend of Alpaca from Hobii and some Madeline Tosh Merino from my stash, a full ball from my stash. So I'm holding these double so it's a little thicker, and it's super soft. My girls think rustic wool is too scratchy, which is understandable, so I'm gonna be knitting their sweaters in either alpaca, merino, or a blend of each. And then for the flowers, I'm gonna combine these colors. This is the color Scout by Madeline Tosh. It's also merino. There you go. And this alpaca, a Hobii alpaca yarn in whatever color this is. I will put it on the screen. I'm knitting that in, let's see, 3.5 millimeter needles, so not too bad. A lot better than 2 millimeter needles. Okay, phew, that's all my knitting. I feel like I did a lot these past 2 weeks. I had a lot of time to knit, and I used it for knitting. One more thing I'll talk about is the dress I sewed. I finished a couple days ago. I had this leftover fabric, a lot of leftover fabric from Merchant and Mills. This is a beautiful, lightweight, soft linen fabric by them. This kind of new, I guess they probably came out with this in time for spring and summer. I think this one's called like sugar candy something something. I'll put it on the bottom of the screen. And in my first episode I showed another dress I made out of this, and I love this so much. The first dress I made was kind of like a fancy, like event type of dress, and I wanted to make a muumuu out of the second that I could wear to the beach, or like as a nightgown, or just like casual day-to-day life type of clothing. So I picked my favorite muumuu pattern, which I've made once before. It's called the Sauvie dress by, I forget who it's by, but I will put it on the screen. And yeah, this took a few hours. It was very easy to make. Let me just show it a little bit better here. So it's got a V-neck, front and back. I think you can wear it either way, especially if you put a loose pocket in there. Then you can really wear it either front or back, whatever you like. And there's a nice strap. There's a little lining. I kind of wish I had used the linen for the lining, so that when it rolls over, in case it rolls out, you won't be able to see this white. Even though I edge stitched, it's still kind of, you know, rolling to the wrong side sometimes. And with this one, I did a pocket like this. I'm not sure what this style of pocket is called, but you basically, it's like a single faced pocket. You cut out one piece of pocket and you sew that piece to the front of your dress. So instead of cutting two pockets and sewing them together like a bag, you create the bag with one pocket piece and the front of the fabric. And I think that looks really cool, especially if I didn't do this, but if you use like a contrasting a thread, then you could have a cool like accent pocket moment, which would be kind of cool. Oh, and then at the sides, it has some vents, a vent on either side, so you can take long steps and walk wherever you need to go without getting restricted, which I hate. So I'll put a little video of me wearing this maybe. So yes, that's all I have for today. I'm going to open up the window again. It's getting pretty hot in here. Hope I'm not too oily or shiny for you. My apologies, it is summer. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I feel like it was jam-packed. I usually come out with a video every 2 weeks or so. So I hope you subscribe if you like this and if you'd like to see more about what I'm knitting on. And I've been reading all your comments. I think I've replied to all of them by now. I usually try to keep up. But thank you so much if you have commented. They really make my day, and I love to hear about where you're from and what you're knitting on. So leave a comment below about where you're from and what you're working on, or maybe if you have any fun summer plans coming up. Because I just love the knitting community. I think it's the best community, and I love to connect with people from around the world, just like I like to use yarn from around the world. So hope your summer's off to a great start. I hope you're knitting on something that you love, and I will see you again next time. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!